Great, so our worksheet today looks like this. And as always, before you have a go at the worksheet for yourself, do read the story in the Bible. So we're in Exodus, so that's the second book in the Bible after Genesis. And you're reading from Exodus chapter 2, so the big number 2, right the way down. So you get to the big number 3, stop when you get to the big number 3, chapter 3, so we're just reading all of Exodus chapter 2. Have a read of the story, then have a go at answering the questions, and then re-watch the video and we'll see what the answers to the questions are. So let's have a think. So the first question looks at the first part of our story, verses 1 to 10. Which things are true? Circle the right answers, correct the answers that are wrong. So Moses' mother looked after him for 6 months, true or false? That's false. She looked after him for 3 months while he was a little baby. Moses was hidden in a special waterproof basket. True. Moses' brother watched to see what happened. It's false. It's Moses' sister. Cross that brother and write sister underneath. Pharaoh's sister found and looked after baby Moses. True or false? It wasn't Pharaoh's sister, it was Pharaoh's daughter. Cross out sister, put daughter. And Moses' mother was paid to care for him. Yes, she was. For the first few years of Moses' life, he grew up with his own mum. Unjumble the parts of the story. So we're looking now from verses 11 to 22. And join the parts of the story up in the right order. So first thing on in our story there, Moses saw an Egyptian beating up an Israelite. Then Moses killed the Egyptian and buried his body. The next day, Moses saw 2 Israelites fighting. The Israelite told Moses he knew he'd killed an Egyptian. Oh no. Pharaoh heard about the murder and tried to kill Moses. So Moses ran away to Midian and sat down at a well. Moses saved Rule's daughters from some shepherds. Moses married Zipporah and had a son called Gershom. Well done if you got all those right. That wasn't an easy challenge. So there's some things to think about there, some questions. How was God behind the scenes protecting Moses? Well, think of all those things that seemed just to happen by chance when Moses was a little baby. His mum kept him safe for 3 months. The soldiers didn't find him. The basket he was put in didn't sink. Floated down the river. Pharaoh's daughter found baby Moses and didn't kill him, like she would have done if it was his dad who found him. The fact that Moses' own mum got to bring him up for the first few years of his life. The fact that Moses got to live in Pharaoh's palace. All of those things just happened to happen. But it wasn't just happened to happen. It was that God was in charge, looking after Moses, protecting him. What signs do we see that Moses cares about right and wrong? Remember I said that Moses is God's rescue. God is going to use Moses to rescue his people. And we see that Moses is a leader who cares. He cared about an Egyptian beating up an Israelite. He knew that wasn't right. He tried to stop 2 Israelites fighting together. He saved Rule's daughters from some shepherds who were being cruel. Now Moses doesn't always do the right thing about that. Killing someone is obviously wrong. But we see that Moses cares. He's compassionate. He's caring about other people. And that's a good thing in a leader. How does Moses feel like a stranger at different points in the story? Well, we see that Moses was an Israelite. He was one of God's people, but he grew up in Egypt. He knew he was different to everyone else. He knew that his people, the Israelites, were slaves. So he felt like a bit of a stranger, a bit of an outsider there. And then obviously when he's in Midian, he's had to run away from Egypt. So he's not with God's people, the Israelites. He's not with the Egyptians. He's with completely different people. And the name of his son, Gershom, means stranger in a strange land. Moses didn't feel at home anywhere. But this was all part of God's plan and preparation and training for Moses to be a really great rescuer of God's people. Last exercise there. Read Exodus 20, verses 23 and 25 and fill in the blanks. The Israelites cried out, "Help! Help!" God heard their groaning and remembered his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember those promises of land and children and blessing. And they came to God's mind. He was like, I need to do something. I'm going to do something about God's people, about my people being slaves in Egypt. Heard them, care. And he remembered that promise he'd made. Lastly, there are some questions down the bottom. And to think about, we're not slaves like the Israelites were, but how does our sin make us like slaves? Well, sin means we keep doing the wrong thing. We're all sinners, and we keep doing the wrong thing even if we don't want to. We keep being angry and rude and putting ourselves at the centre and forgetting about God. And the Bible says that without Jesus we are all slaves to sin. There's nothing we can do to stop that. We have to trust in Jesus. Because Jesus is a better rescuer than Moses. That's our question. How is Jesus a better rescuer than Moses? Well, Moses got things wrong. He did the wrong thing. He killed an Egyptian. That was wrong. But Jesus is a perfect rescuer. He never did anything wrong. Also, God was going to use Moses to rescue his people from being slaves. That was a really good thing. But remember, Jesus' rescue is from sin and death. That's an even bigger rescue plan. So Jesus is an even better rescuer because he rescues us from an even more dangerous thing, being slaves in Egypt. Last two questions. If we've never asked God for his help to save us before, what's stopping us? Well, I don't know. Because remember the Israelites called out, "God, help." And he answered their prayer and was preparing this rescuer for them. I don't know what it is that's stopping you from asking Jesus to be your rescuer, to be your king. Have a think. Maybe pray to God, asking him to help you, to rescue you. And if we have asked Jesus to be our rescuer, how should that change us every day? Well, every day, because we've been rescued, because we've been saved, that means that we're living for Jesus first, not ourselves. That can be really hard. But it means putting God first, thinking, what is the best thing for God? What is the right thing to be doing? What would he want me to do in this situation? How can I please him? How can I live a life that says thank you to him? So it's all about putting Jesus first, not ourselves. And that affects all sorts of little things day to day. But it makes a big difference in our lives if we've been rescued by Jesus, putting him first. So hopefully that worksheet has helped us understand a little bit more about Exodus 2 and what that means in our lives today.